Alright, well this will be part 2. So, I can't hold the camera and set this stuff up very good, but to recap, what I just did, I left this lathe dog loose, and I flipped the shaft around. You see the spline end that I've cut down here on the end with the lathe dog now. So this is the end I got to cut yet. So I left this loose, I put my mill in neutral, and then I came up here and snuck in with this slid back and got one tooth on the cutter in here, kept rotating the shaft back and forth a little bit by hand, feeling the play until I eased in there and got that positioned. And then I tightened up my tailstock center pretty snug so that the shaft didn't spin very easy then. Backed the mill out, slid this down, and very carefully got it snugged up on the shaft without rotating the shaft. So now I know that when I start cutting my first tooth here, it's going to be exactly in line with that tooth there. And that matters because that's what controls the indexing of those two yokes that go on the end, specifically these parts. And you can see we got one with a wide tooth on one side and then one with a set screw on the other that function from opposite sides. So anyways, I probably won't shoot any video of cutting this spline. I'll just go ahead and go to run video. I'll probably just shoot a little bit of cutting the last spline or so and then show you what the final product looks like. Alright, I decided to put her under power feed. So you can see we got her auto feeding now. I had been hand feeding all because I was terrified of wrecking my cutter. But anyway, that's the gist of her. We're just working our way down to 0 here. She is making chips. Alright, we're on our final cut here. I'm leaving that one wide tooth like I had mentioned. Yeah, so assuming this one fits right, which this should, I mean, I had to kind of experiment way up, sneak up on the dimensions the first round, but same yoke, so unless something's changed on my machine, I'm going to the same numbers on my DROs. This should slip right on there, so we'll see. The only difference is this fat tooth, so I guess if there's something weird in the bottom of the wide tooth in their yoke, it could change something. But anyway, we'll see how she goes. Alright, so this turned out just like I had anticipated. And you see I got one double width tooth. And let's see here. So that should fit in there. Hey, what do you know? It fits. Yeah, feels really nice. Very little play. Slides nice. So now the only thing that needs to happen for this shaft to be complete is this wide tooth is exactly 180 degrees off from where the hole is that locates the yoke on the other end. So I just got to get this thing set up. I'll have to tear down all this indexing head stuff, get my... Well, I say that, and I'm thinking out loud. Could I do that in... I'll have to think about this. We may possibly go ahead and set it back up in there, flip it back around. I'll have to think that over, but at any rate, I'll decide what's the simplest method anyway to get centered back up, because this hole is exactly centered on a tooth, so I guess that won't come out right with the current indexing, with direct indexing. I'd have to figure it out with differential indexing. I don't feel like getting into that much monkeying around. So we'll just go ahead and get this set up in the vise and get centered on that tooth and drill that hole, and we'll be done with this project. Alright, we're getting ready for the final stage here. I'm sure you all can pretty well tell what's about to happen here from what I got set. So I've got my one wide tooth facing down. So because this is an odd number of teeth, I need to dead center this tooth on this side. And what that means on the bottom side, I've got two teeth that are sitting flat. So I admit it's not like super precision. I literally rocked it around. I've got a couple of wide parallels in there for it to set on, and held pressure down on it and rocked back and forth till I felt it set on those bottom two teeth and tightened up the vise. Now, I'm not denying that I could be off by a thou or two, but this hole is actually oversized And the tip of that bolt, well, I can show that to you in a minute. So this bolt is what drops into that hole. If I can get it to focus on it. Anyway, and the hole is quite a bit bigger than the tip of that bolt. It's allowing it to actually float around a little bit and just basically keeps the shaft from sliding out of there. So for what it is, this will be good enough. I'm getting ready with my edge finder to edge find the inside of my jaws to get centered up on that tooth. So we'll show you when we get to the drilling. Alright, we're all centered up, zeroed up, and it's time to put in this hole. Just verify from eyeballing. Oh yeah, we're right dead nuts in the middle of that tooth. This is 10 millimeters from the end of the shaft, by the way, on the center line. A little bit tricky with being on this tooth. I don't really want to break a drill. I'm taking her very easy here. Kind of feeling my way into that thing. I don't think I've mentioned it before, by the way. This shaft is 4140. I did a whole bunch of research, and yes, I know there's other shaft materials that might have possibly been better, but we're in this crazy post-COVID environment where it's really difficult to get a hold of some materials, and 4140 is a good old standby for shaft material. It's got a reputation for getting the job done for a long time. Alright. So, decided that we'd just go with, the availability was good. I'm sure it's more than sufficient for the project that we're doing. But anyways, I'll come back to you guys once I get the hole drilled. Okay, so something else I forgot to mention is I know I am not going to drill a hole in my parallels. This hole in this shaft does not go all the way through. I don't know if you'd seen that before. But anyways, I just stuck something in that hole, measured the depth of the hole, and then used that to set the distance on my depth stop here. Once again, hole depth isn't critical, so I literally just stuck a drill bit in there, held my thumb on it, held that up here, and have got that depth set so that we'll get, we'll be within probably 20 thousandths of the same hole depth, and it really doesn't matter because it's way deeper than the length of the tip on that bolt. So, all right, let the fun begin. Gotta love that interrupted cut by drilling into the middle of a spline. Not a good way to have a drill bit live a long and healthy life, but it's what we gotta do here. There we are, to depth. Looks pretty legit. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to drop the knee away here a minute before we move anything. And just make sure that I'm at least deeper than what my tip on my bolt is. Yeah. Just looking at that, I guess what we'll do is we'll compare that with this. Yeah, my hillbilly measuring method says that I wasn't quite as deep as I ought to be, because I basically want to be able to bury the tip of that in there. So we're going to give this thing, let's see here, another, let's see what that does. I realize anybody that's a real tool maker is screaming at this right now, but gotta bring my table back up to my previous position here. All right. Pretty sure that'll do it. Basically, if I'm deep enough for the entire tip, we know the threads don't reach into that hole at all. Yep, we're getting stopped by the threads on the bolt now, so deep enough. Well, folks, that's it. That is one finished shaft, so I'll shoot some video when I verify that this fits in there a minute, but otherwise the customer's on his way to get it. This thing should be back in a tractor and humming in no time. Alright guys, there it is. It's the end of the story. You can see the slight play in there. That's the way they designed it. They're letting this float a bit. Like I say, this bolt's just keeping it from coming out. And then on the other end, this is the slip end, so there's no retention here. They're assuming this is sliding in and out. I'm assuming the engine must be rubber mounted or something, or maybe it's just thermal expansion they're worried about. But at any rate, this end is where most of the movement's allowed, but they do allow this end that much worth of travel. So I'm going to recommend that the customer heavily greases this with a good high pressure grease, in the hopes that, you know, as far as I can tell, it was put together from the factory dry, and that's what's letting this thing chew up all of these splines. So hopefully, I mean, it survived 30 years. If he greases it, it'll probably go 50. So anyway, that's it, folks. We're, yeah, hopefully I'll come up with some other cool projects we can shoot some videos of before too long. Thanks for watching.